This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Morning, Gary. Welcome to the altar of BARD for this Sunday morning. You've had quite a morning, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable that the time changes in the middle of the night. My 3-year-old agrees.
Yeah, makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, he thinks it's very, very logical and it makes a lot of sense, and he's not pissed off about it at all.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much longer this is for the world, but we'll see. And basically how much longer it is for most of the United States. Kind of an interesting week. There's quite a few places we could start. I had thought we'd start with Pelosi, but then I've been reading all kinds of stuff about Elon Musk and Twitter, and I know how much you love Elon Musk. So do you have any thoughts on what's happening over in Twitter?
It's certainly fun as a spectator. I've sort of been viewing the Elon Musk Twitter takeover as sport. Now that's a very cold-hearted thing to say when you consider that 3,400 jobs or however many it was, have been eliminated. I certainly don't think that's sport or fun or anything, but it's interesting to watch. I mean, I think we opined on this show that he had made his offer and then he was maybe not going to pay that price. And then ultimately he paid that exact price and he's now having to deal with the realities of that. And, the $8 blue check mark is certainly interesting and something to think about. And I did like that he said that he's going to have a council from a wide range of ideas and positions to deal with the idea of banning people or suspending people. I think that's maybe a step in the right direction. But it's interesting. Hey,
I read an article this morning. It was in the Washington Post that Alex Spiro, who we've had as a guest and I've known for many years. I haven't talked to him recently, but Alex is apparently intimately involved. He was on the Twitter battle in the Chancery Court, and he's now apparently intimately involved in the Twitter firings and restructuring, if you will. I agree with you. I mean, I said at the time, I don't understand. I'm perplexed, if you will, as to why he went through with the $44 billion, especially if there was a $1 billion breakup fee, and to go in there and immediately realize that, the place is, I don't know that this is a legal term, but a shit show in terms of its revenue and everything else. I mean, the idea that they're going to pay $44 billion for a place that is hemorrhaging cash and then
$4 million a day. According to him.
Yeah. And it would not surprise me.
No.
And at all. I mean, there hasn't been, by all accounts, at least publicly, any SEC filings and everything else, which we looked at during the Chancery Court proceedings. It certainly does not seem that this is even close to a money-making operation. So I assume he's going to revamp it, and this is the beginning of it. He's already been sued, by the way, in a class action. I mean, he's owned the place. How long has he owned the place? How many days?
There's 6, maybe.
Yeah, there's already a class action that's been filed. I'm not sure.
I believe it's the WARN Act, which is a California thing that provides that anytime a mass layoff is going to happen, there has to be a certain amount of notice. 60 days if memory serves.
Right. And then I saw where one of the notices that was put out to the employees said you're going to get paid through February. So I have a hard time understanding the theory behind that. But, welcome to America. And the interesting part about a lot of this is the reports, if you will, that some of the people are being clawed back already. Have you seen that maybe it was premature or maybe it was done with too wide a swath? So it'll be interesting to see. I think that there's going to be part of the problem when you come into an organization like this and then you wipe out half of the workforce is they know where the bodies are buried. And that's never a good thing. And So maybe they've just, maybe that's one of the reasons Spiro's there, is because they know that this is going to be a scorched earth litigation posture. And you need the guy who got you out of pedo guy litigation to lead the charge.
I'm not sure all of our audience will get that reference, but a longtime Reasonable Doubt listeners will. Musk is, he now owns Twitter, but he has not been immune to just going on Twitter and then getting into all kinds of trouble.
Yeah. Now the other case that, and it's a legal case in the sense that there's a gentleman who's in custody, is the Pelosi case. And the kind of the ups and downs of this case have been, to say the least, fascinating. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
I would. I consume a lot of media, mostly because of this show. I consume media for fun, for sure. But as this show has grown, I consume a wide range of media because I want to hear from all sides of the spectrum. And I want to sort of know where people are at so I can self-assess and see where I'm at. And this story has been the best version of that because it ranges so wildly.
I said at first that I thought it was a Rorschach test for everybody who kind of is perceived, but you may have hit the nail on the head. It's really a Rorschach test for the media because one of the interesting things is that there was a report, I believe, on Friday when we were taping the big show, and it was NBC News, and NBC News was out saying that when he came to the door, Paul Pelosi came to the door, that he had opened the door and there was kind of a recounting that was based on somebody familiar with the case. I always love that. They don't,
sure.
Who's your source? Somebody familiar with the case. What does that mean? I mean, could you get any more amorphous?
No.
So they claimed that he didn't act in distress, the Pelosi did, and that he walked back in and they had to retract it, and they actually didn't retract. What they did is they just took it down shortly thereafter because it became apparent that it was just factually false, but not before all other kinds of, there was a brouhaha in other media outlets, and I won't even waste the time trying to say right, left, or in between or mainstream, but it really is quite a shit show once again of showing that the people who are observing it tends to reflect more on them than it does about the facts. And I will circle back to the district attorney, who's fairly new in her job after the recall of the DA up there. She was appointed, and this has not been her finest hour. I think she'd probably agree with it because she has come out there. She's made statements. She hasn't released information that she probably should have. And I've been saying for a long time, whether it's mugshots or other types of information, just have one rule. I mean, why is it that sometimes a mugshot is released if it's a celebrity before they've even been released, and it's already, Harvey is posting it over at TMZ, and other times you can't get a mugshot? And why is it sometimes you get a body cam, other times, I have to go up to a state Supreme Court fighting to get the body cam, and that just is irksome as well.
Yeah, we covered that at length on the most recent, full hour of this show, and Adam was saying the exact same thing. It's, as you said, just look, have it be a rule. If I can never get it, I can never get it. But if I can get it sometimes, I should be able to get it all the time. Let's
right. And look, the argument is, I've made the argument countless times. If I'm defending a person who is accused, I don't want the jury pool to be tainted. And so I think that it ought to, you have some crazy picture that you put out there where a guy looks like they've just thrown him into a washing machine and then put him up for the mugshot. If you're going to do that, be consistent. If you're not going to do it, be consistent. But don't just do it willy-nilly without any kind of basis. And I think that that's something that should be a rule, a law, or a statute, which it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And when we titled our last Beyond a Reasonable Doubt episode last Sunday as the Rorschach test. And it's a very apt analysis because it is just fascinating to watch the different ways that people are clinging to morsels of information and making it their entire narrative.
Yep. You know, we could have spent the entire hour on affirmative action because the arguments were made at the U.S. Supreme Court this week. And I think that most of the people, and I haven't listened to all of the oral arguments, but I've listened to a couple, and it was done well, but it's clear, I think, as clear as you can read tea leaves at the U.S. Supreme Court, that affirmative action in the college admissions process is not long for this world. And boy, that's yet another testament to Clarence Thomas's influence on this court. It's amazing, kind of Rehnquist all over again in certain ways, where they start off as the kind of the lone dissenter, and then they wait long enough and they become the majority, or at least the majority adopts kinds of the things that were their dissents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Clarence Thomas has really, he's been in the news lately, but he's had a forceful effect on the court in the past.
There's an outsize effect. There's another, and an outsize effect in the Second Amendment. And there's girdling up. There was, and I should have sent it to you because I was reading it. There's an appellate court that I just read an order, and I want to say it's out of Missouri, and I could be wrong, but federal court, intermediate court, court of appeal, actually in a order that was quite fascinating to me, started talking about whether the court should hire, the court, meaning his court, a trained historian, and took some pot shots at the idea that the U.S. Supreme Court is making rulings based on history, and they're not trained historians, and and the implication was that they were cherry picking history, or the history that supports their belief in the Second Amendment and how it's applied. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not that case gets any traction. We may talk about it on the big show this week. I'll get the order for you and we can put it up. Maybe you've already found it. You're so good at it.
I'm trying. I believe I found a Washington Post article here about it, but I'm having trouble reading it and listening.
What state was it? It was a federal judge, I believe, but what state was it out of? I think it was Missouri, but I'm like I said, I'm having trouble. There's some great language in this case that is going to prove to be great fodder for discussions. This is all post Bruen, Bruen, the U.S. Supreme Court case that built on Heller and some of the other rethinking of the Second Amendment. And now, there's even a line there talking about rich white landowning males from the 1700s, blah blah blah, and it is a fascinating read if you want to see the kinds of give and take that's going back and forth in the federal courts regarding the Second Amendment.
We will get to it this coming Tuesday, while we also do a preview of the end of Election Day. We're going to be recording on Election Day, Tuesday afternoon. So, out here in the West, maybe we'll have some exit polls to break, and we'll see how that red tsunami we've been talking about will actually come to pass or not.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, even though he's not red per se. Rick Caruso, by all accounts, at least as of this morning, seems to have, he's changed his registration to Democrat, seems to have at least caught up and is neck and neck with Karen Bass here in Los Angeles for mayor. The sheriff, Villanueva, who's a friend of the show, appears to be trailing. And one of the earmarks of that is you'll notice that the sheriff's deputies union, even though they endorsed him, the sheriff went on and said last election they gave him $1 million. This election, I think they've given him $1,500. I don't think that's because they no longer support him. I think that's because they can read the handwriting on the wall, so to speak. Yeah. Go ahead. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the city council races here in LA and the supervisor's race. The one supervisor race is the one that Hertzberg's in. And if Hertzberg wins, that tilts the Board of Supervisors in a completely different direction. The LA City Council races are really interesting because it's at the same time that the Board of Supervisors can tilt to what many people would claim is a more moderate composition 3-2. The city council races could actually tilt, and you could find candidates who identify with socialists winning most of those races. So it's quite a little race, quite a little kind of laboratory for the city and county of LA that we've got coming up. Then spread out. I was also looking for the elections on Tuesday. There's two schools of thought. There's the tsunami, the red tsunami, and the fact that even in New York State, the governor's race now has, by all accounts, tightened up, and Lee Zeldin is closing on Kathy Hochul. But in addition to that, you're seeing some of these other Senate races that conceivably were locked up are now neck and neck. Nevada, Georgia, so there's those, and obviously Pennsylvania, and so we'll be watching for those too. So it's going to be quite a fascinating upcoming week.
I could not agree more. We look forward to seeing you this Tuesday and beyond.
Yeah, before we go, didn't I send you one thing that I wanted to play?
Yeah, absolutely. I got it ready for you right here.
So I figured we'd end with this.
Let's go for it.
You may recognize this is the judge who was presiding over the Parkland case. For those of you who are new lawyers or new judges, that's the judge hugging the prosecutors after the case.
Bad facts and evidence is what I would call that if I were referring to a Mark Garrigus statement.
Yeah. I would recommend that not be something you do as a judge after a prolonged trial, is to go out on camera in the middle of the courtroom and hug the prosecutors. You'll notice that there were no defense lawyers getting hugs there, nor should they. But we played previously this same judge.
Yeah. Excoriating the defense attorney.
Yeah, excoriating the defense, and before that, not understanding what was it, sugar daddy?
Sugar baby, I think, but nonetheless, she's had quite a ride. So during this case, I think she needs to take a beat. And she's welcome on Reasonable Doubt anytime she'd like to explain herself.
We would love it. We won't even request a hug.
No. We'll do it over Zoom. It'll be fine. All right, Mark, thank you so much for taking some time on a Sunday. We appreciate it. As we alluded to, big week of Reasonable Doubt coming up with the elections and beyond. So stay tuned for that. Tentative schedule will be Beyond on Tuesday and a big show on Friday, and I'm very likely back at the altar of BARD next Sunday. So we will look forward to seeing you all then. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Go have fun with that toddler today.
I appreciate it, pal. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.